three of you guys, and I think we have to. That mic is live. Right?
This one's live, yeah?
Okay, so you guys.
You
might
said
need
everyone
to
had their own.
We're down one now.
Okay, no problem.
We only have three.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just need to.
Look how good you look in that. Look how good you look in that video. That looks the jacket looks good.
I'm trying.
Look
It was the angle.
Look at. I know it is.
The
It's
angle.
a good angle. It's a good angle for you.
The thing is it still doesn't put any hair on my head.
You know what? I look fat in this thing. A little bit.
Still no hair. I'm looking for the hair. I need the hair.
Oh,
Look at this.
there goes our
The
branding.
filter with hair on it.
Oh, there goes your branding. It's there.
Yeah, well, oh no, I guess so.
I still look fat.
It wasn't a,
It's, no, it's the horizontal. It's
You
the
tried.
horizontal. I can't take that.
You gotta go black. I'm done. Black, all black. Try
I
it.
don't care.
Black,
I would have put it back on. I'll put it back on. And
All right.
I'll pull it tight.
all right, guys, we're gonna start up with the Booker's Q&A. Thank you to everyone for coming out. I'd like to introduce everyone who's on our panel today. Directly to my right is Steve Smith from Artists West Entertainment. He's been doing stand-up for since 1982. So let's have a hand for Steve. Next on our panel is David Kay, owner of Slapsticks Comedy Club, and he's been doing stand-up since 1987. And we also have Brian Spina from Off the Hook Comedy Club. He also runs Captain's Log podcast and owns Captain Brian's Spirit Line.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is John.
Great name.
It's a big name.
It's a good name for show business.
Yeah, it's hard to just call me guys. So my name is Jason Rowland. I'm the VP of the World Series. I also run a company called ComedyFeedback.com. Well, I guess it's not called .com. And today is our Bookers Q&A. I want to go over a few set questions with our bookers first, and then we'll open up questions to the floor. If you guys grab the program book that we've printed out, one of the things that we did over the course of the year is that we spoke with a number of bookers at the satellite events we went to throughout the year. And if you go to page 30 and 31, there's a transcription of a number of the questions that we've asked. So take the program book with you and you'll have questions from 4 bookers, Matt Chavez from LA Comedy Club in Vegas, Ike Daniel, who's here this week from Joker's Club in Indy, Heather O'Loughlin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Drop Comedy Club, and Barry Buckland, who ran Laugh Lines in Vancouver. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask these same 5 questions to the panel, and then we'll go to questions from the audience. So first and foremost, let's just go with, what do you look for in the comedians that you guys book? Brian?
Okay, so not only do I like to have comedians at the club that are easy to work with, I think that's a huge bonus because there's plenty of comics out there that are super funny that don't get a lot of work from me because they're way too high maintenance. But I think one of the first things that I would say I do at this point is I look at their Instagram and Facebook following, and then I'll look at their videos.
I can use this one. I think for me, what I look for, first of all, they have to be consistently funny through any kind of video that they send me, and I look for good promo as far as headshots, clear headshots, and I like to have bios and information about them, because without that, I'm kind of clueless as to what, where to put them, as far as like whether it's an MC spot or a feature spot, headline spot, or if they work clean or dirty, or corporate or family friendly, or whatever it is that they're looking at, whatever slot they're going to fit into, and that's funny.
I have to say, you're right.
I understand. I certainly understand that. The following, and you know what? I've booked comedians specifically because I've booked certain shows specifically because of that following. But for me, that's not just because you have a huge Facebook following. For me, it does not mean that they might be hilariously funny.
I actually jumped the gun. They still have to be funny.
Right.
But I'm saying in general, those are some of the things that I look for. For sure, they have to be funny. I mean, but like I said, there's a lot of funny people. They just have to have all the rest of their ducks in a line for me to book them as well.
For me, I have an agency. I book comedians on cruise ships. I started this agency about 15 years ago to take care of the comedians. There's a lot of agencies out there that just didn't seem to represent the comic. I'm a comic. I've been a comic for a long time. So myself and my partner Ron Reed, who ran the Comedy Underground and the Seattle Comedy Competition for years, we started this agency. And what I look for in a comic right off the bat is a good quality video. You know, I had a guy I was just telling somebody the other day, send me a video of him shot on an iPhone, him holding the iPhone down while he's doing his stand-up set in the back of a Chinese restaurant. So I passed on that one.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, no. That's,
And I look for clean too, because obviously cruise ships, even though a lot of them have comedy clubs on where you can do your club set, you do have to have a good chunk of family-friendly, clean material. So I look for high-quality tapes. I can tell if you're a comedian right off the bat within 30 seconds. I'm sure you guys can too. And then I'll watch the rest of it and see what you got. So, but start with that really good, high-quality video before you even submit. Because you may be a really good comic, but if it's shot blurry and shit, you know, we're just kind of going to go, what is it? I can't tell. And the sound is off, you know, just spend the money. Spend the money and get a good tape.
All right, one follow-up I have relating to that for you, Ryan, is I know that you guys do a podcast, and have you found that you have maybe more loyal followers from a podcast point of view than you would just from general Twitter and Facebook followers?
well, I leverage a podcast to do a number of things. I found that through social media with my podcast, I can offset the spending because I have a lot more people that start following nonstop because I just put up so much content all the time. And then I kind of tricked the fans into realizing, wow, they're getting an ad because I do all the big headliners Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, usually on my show. And we just basically talk about their life, them as a comic, and them performing at the club. So I think that that's how I use it. But for the comedians themselves, that's one of the biggest things right now, I would say. But it's not, for me, it's not the go button for when I book them.
Okay.
Some acts, of course, they have huge podcasts and you can't ignore it. That's their bread and butter. But I think I was also speaking more towards maybe my off nights and also my features and openers, because we do, you know, a lot of major headline shows. So those guys are all, you know, movie stars and TV stars on a weekly basis. But yeah, I think the podcast gets a lot of loyal fans if you can get a good following, and put up a lot of video, Instagram and Facebook. Put up the material. Don't be afraid to do it.
I think one of the hesitations some bookers have with people with large followers on Twitter and Facebook is twofold. One, are all of those followers real or are they bots? And then the second thing is, how does that represent your club regionally compared to their followership?
It's a very small portion. You have to really just look at that and take that into consideration, but you can't base your whole thing on unless they break million. I mean, if someone has 40,000 followers and like, I have 40,000 followers on Instagram, great. There's 9 people that come from Naples, Florida, they're gonna come see the show, if that. So that's not gonna pay the bill.
Okay. So the next question that we went into with some of the bookers earlier this year is, what's the best way to be considered for work at your venue? That's basically kind of, is it better to showcase, better to be seen on video, good submission video, that sort of thing?
Okay, for me, both. We try to do a showcase every year somewhere, and bringing the bookers out from the different cruise lines to come see the comics. So that's a great way to get booked and to get on that showcase. Really helps. And then throughout the year, when we're not showcasing, it's only one night, we will submit videos to the bookers. So.
Most of the bookings that I do, or through my through email. I do most of my booking through that. So if you have my events at slapsticksproductions.com, I would submit to that. I do watch videos all the way through for the most part, unless it's really horrible, and then I won't watch it. But then sometimes I'll watch it just because
It's horrible.
it's horrible, and I love it.
I gotta agree with that one.
as long as you provide a decent video to me and say and don't be shy about sending your avails on a regular basis. Once you're on my list of comics because I send a lot. Typically, what I'll do is I send out my work. I'll get people's emails. I put them all on my work drop list, and I'll send out work. Basically about once a month. And I try to book out as far as I can, 6 to 8 months, for a lot of the events that I do. And I should mention that most of the stuff that I do, I'd say 80% of the work I do is fundraising. It's comedy. They're comedy shows. I have an event called the Funny Fundraiser, and it's usually PG-13. I try not to do. I don't go R for those shows, but I do have other rooms that I book, my comedy club rooms that are no restrictions. So I always say, and if you're gonna send me something, I would say try to send clean versus dirty, and try to write clean versus really dirty too, because that just opens you up for a lot more different venues. That's all. I have nothing more than this.
Okay, so you touched on some good points, but my thing is that on a daily basis, I probably get 2 to 20 submissions. It's too much. My first response back is that, do you have a comic or a club that somebody can, vouch for you? That's if I don't know who you are at that point, and that's my go-to, I'll say that. A lot of times I won't watch too many videos. I know some guys do, but I watch comedy nonstop around the clock, and if I haven't seen you yet, then somebody better vouch for you before it's gonna be enough for me to, take time to watch.
That's good too. If you have a reference from some other comedians that you've worked with, or clubs that you've worked
clubs
with,
or comedians,
clubs, comedians, or other bookers that I know that you know, and mutual. So that definitely helps.
And I'll follow up on that and make sure the reference likes you.
Yeah.
I've had a lot
I've had
of those.
some where I go, this guy recommended me to you guys, and and then I call him up and the guy goes, how is he? Is he a good comic? He goes, So, make sure the comic likes you.
Part of my role with the Comedy Mix was I booked the room there as well, and I know some of you have seen this seminar in the past where I moderated, but just to let you guys know, the day I left the Comedy Mix, I had an email inbox folder called Comics Looking for Work. It had 1,100 emails in it, and if you do the math, it's incredible. At a full club, there's 52 weeks, 3 spots a week. That's 156 weeks of work available. Probably 40 of the headline spots are already going into regular rotation of people you bring once a year. You have to accommodate all the locals. I used to estimate I probably had 50 weeks of work between MC, middle, and headliner available to anyone looking for work. So if you do the math, 50 out of 1,100, it's like 4%. You have a 96% rejection rate just being a good comic.
You have to have thick skin. I have 107,000 unopened emails in my inbox right now.
That's great.
So there's no doubt. I mean, you just have to keep working it. Keep working it. Dougie calls me all the time. He's a great comic. I would use him all the time, but you do have to get other people in the mix. Like, it's hard for a
Referrals are
club
great.
to do that.
And one thing that David touched upon, and maybe we can get the answers from the 2 other panelists, is how often should you follow up after you've made contact with the club?
As
to
often
get
as you
work?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem. Like, every week some comics ask me, can you work this week? I don't have a problem with it. It's that's a personal preference, but
And I think that's a great lesson, because what you need to do as a comic is you can't come to bat with a standard approach for every club or venue or booking agent. You need to adapt your approach to each individual. Like, you can't shoehorn them into the way you want to get booked. You have to be malleable to the way that they book their particular venue. Anything
What about you guys?
offer?
Do you do text? I do a lot. If somebody has my number and they're texting me, they're probably 70% more likely to get booked for sure than if they email me, because I get so many people who email me that I don't know,
Right.
and somehow if they have my cell phone, they must know somebody or know something. So if you can get somebody's cell phone, that's the golden buzzer.
What's your cell number?
Yes.
I watch every video and answer every email, but I'm more direct than these guys because obviously they have weeks to fill and spots open or not open. I'm signing you on to an agency, so I'm watching your video with that in mind, and I'll either say I want to see more, or try me back at a later time, send more video or something like that. But I'll answer everybody's and watch at least 3 to 30 seconds of your video. No, I watch the whole thing.
All right, I think we're at a stage where we can open up some questions to the audience. Ira's going to be going around with Mike, so just hands up, he'll follow you, and then we'll open the question. Start with Sean Patrick here. This is going to be fun watching Ira run around.
Okay, you said within 30 seconds if you're a comic, but how long should a video be that I'm submitting?
For me, I'll start with a 7 to 10 minute video, family friendly. Everybody can work a club in here because that's why you're here. But can you work what I do? It's different. Everything you guys do is different because I've lived it since '82. I've done nothing but stand-up comedy since 1982. So I know what the clubs are like, and I know what they pay, and I know what they do. So every venue is different. Every club is different. Every corporate gig is different. Everything you guys are going to do is going to be a little twist on your act. You know what I mean? Some will adapt, some won't. So I'll watch the 7 and 10, and then usually I'll ask to see more if I'm interested from them. But I can tell if you're a good, comfortable, in control, confident stand-up comedian within 30 seconds. I really can. I've watched too much shit.
Absolutely, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Also, like coming from a club perspective, don't forget we have weekends that we want to fill, but we have one-nighters. We have a lot of times there might be some kind of niche-y little show, and so you may not be the perfect fit for a full weekend. But if I have some kind of different night, I'm always looking for different acts. So it's not always the same thing I'm looking for every time. For sure, it's not.
Yeah, I'd say 7 to 10 is a good start, and just go right into the act. Maybe you just have your name and now coming to the stage, whatever your name is. These are the ones I hate. Come to the stage,
You've seen
Joey
them all.
Joe, here he comes. They have like 17 different people. Introducing them, at different venues.
Oh,
and,
right.
and there's music playing, and there's all kinds of angles, and he's like,
The Netflix special edit of your
there's,
submission video.
there's just all this fluff in front. Don't just cut the fluff. Just go right to your act. You don't want a little bio or anything about you. I mean, unless it's on, unless you're doing something. If you're sending a video from from Last Comic Standing, or from America's Got Talent, or a nationally televised show where you're sitting down with the host, then yes, that's absolute. But if it's just doing a club show,
Yeah, not 20 open mics. No.
yeah.
But back to that question again. I also do like when you send like your schedule, because I do want to see the other clubs you're playing
Right.
as well. So you can send me like a brief clip of how many clubs you played, the dates, and then what you have open. You don't just have to send me what's open. I like to see what other clubs you played recently.
And that kind of plays into referral as well, because then club owners talk to each other,
Absolutely.
and so they can find out how that weekend went for someone. Sean Patrick, also, that leads in really well to the fact that on Thursday at 3 p.m. there's going to be a set construction seminar here in this room, and it's going to be focused a lot on video submissions.
Who's doing that?
Some Canadian dude. Some guy from Canada who's come all the way to the Golden Arches. All right.
There's a McDonald's here?
Yeah, many. Leslie.
So this question is also kind of about referrals. So clearly we're all from different regions and everything. How do we know which comics you know, which clubs you're familiar with? How do we know which referrals to work on getting?
There's not many I don't know, so I think they'll say the same thing. It's not a huge industry. I mean, there's I don't know how many clubs, but most of if I see a comic, I pretty much know most of everyone they play on their schedule for the most part.
Yeah, and you can look at any club's lineup for the year or two, and if your referral has played that club, then that's a pretty good sign that you know that referral will work. Or you ask the referral, have you played his club? Then you know, same thing for me. Look on my roster.
Exactly.
If you look on my roster, if you know them and they want to refer you, perfect.
That's how I found you. On your website, seriously, I found your website. I looked at your roster and I saw that you had hired some of my past winners. I'm like, well, then he knows of us. And I got over.
Yeah, you've been good to us. You've provided us some great comedians. Thanks.
Same with me. I use comedians as well.
Yeah, me too. And the nice thing about it is the comics do travel. I will say that a lot of the comics that I've typically used are East Coast comics or east of the Mississippi. Only for the fact that I don't want you to have to travel 22 hours for a couple $100. Make it worth your while to make that trip, no matter where you're going. Route yourself. And if you want to come to Pittsburgh and work my club, and you're coming from Denver, try to find a couple of other interconnecting gigs to get you there, because coming in for a feature spot on a one-nighter or a weekend room is a killer. I know, I did it myself, but
It'll cut down on your cancellations then too.
Polite questions to the booker are always great after you've been booked at a place. At the Comedy Mix, we would be aware if someone's traveling a long way and say, hey, we pay our Tuesday and Wednesday night headliners. If you can make your way to the city a day or two earlier, I can supplement your weekend income by giving you additional paid work. And we were also really plugged into the local scene and knew people who would run a bar show that had a $50 headliner gig. That's not great, but that's probably a tanky dance or two. And so the comedy community is very supportive in general of each other. Sometimes we fight amongst each other, but we don't fight with other industries. We protect each other and support each other. And so that's one of the things that, don't be afraid to ask that question once you've developed a relationship with a booker. Say, is there anything else in your region that I could do on the way? Like, obviously you don't want to do a competing club in the same.
I was just going to
market.
say that. Once you get booked, or they agree that they want to bring you in, there's no problem with asking. I think that probably more than half the comics will ask, and I will give every one of them, hey, try this club, but don't play this club. So make sure if you're doing that, you don't want to compete with some of their surrounding clubs, but ask them. That way they tell you which ones to go to.
See, that's something I hated as a comic. I just hated that. Because you're booking guys who don't have a draw or a name, but you won't let them play 2 miles down the block.
Well, okay, so this is a good conversation. And by the way,
I'm sorry. Just from a comic standpoint.
And we can talk about this on my podcast. By the way, I'm going to set up my podcast, and we're going to be live, and anybody can come on and we'll talk about it. And you can ask me questions and whatever you want to do. I'll be here all week. But makes a good point. However, I spend $250,000 a year advertising, and the top 4 radio stations in my market pretty much have my comics on every week, and therefore I will put you on the radio if you're going to be working this show, especially if you're like headlining a Thursday or a Wednesday night or a Sunday.
See, that makes more sense. To me, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense on why you shouldn't play that other club.
Correct.
I started comedy before radio.
Yeah.
So, that never made sense.
You're big in the parchment paper.
I was huge. The Shroud of Steve, I would send out to get booked. Cassette tapes. I used to send cassette tapes. Ever?
Yes.
Walk.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about working clubs across town. I would always use, I'm on your side as far as, like in Fort Worth, Dallas. Randy Butler would always say, you can work Hyenas in Fort Worth, I'll book you, but you can't work the Dallas Improv. And that's 45 minutes away, about an hour away. And I told him, I said, I have the ability to only work a certain amount of clubs. You know, if I can stay here in town, why can't I do it 6 months apart? 6 months apart, I found lots of followings, like in Wichita, whenever I come back 6 months apart. You know, that's the only way that I built a following. 1 year, people, I mean, man, it's going to take me 4 or 5 appearances before I find a following in 1 year.
Is it the same radio market? The same radio market for both clubs? Or two
Yes.
different?
Yes, they are.
Probably the reason.
I'm
sure.
Okay. But I mean, in the end, you can book other radio as well. So in the end, I'm not using your same radio people to go on. I won't use the Improv doesn't use the same radio station as Hyenas in Fort Worth. So they have, one does the rock station, the other one does the classic rock station. So I mean, in my head, whenever I see that, it's like, you're taking money away from me because I could just go down the road and spend time with my family, but you want me to, hey, wait another year. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of on that with you over there. That I just can't. That always irks me. So I usually will just tell the clubs, hey, I'm gonna work both of these 6 months apart. So I mean, if they can't handle it, it's kind of like, because how am I gonna get a following in that area? I'm only there once a year.
Well, sometimes the club owners typically won't compromise with each other on that.
I don't zero. I just wouldn't book you. I'd be honest with you. I just wouldn't book you. Yeah.
And I just want to say for my club in Fort Wayne, I've got a guy, and I encourage the open micers to grow. But what I discourage is when I bring someone that comes to the World Series of Comedy like I did last year, and I bring my calendar to book folks, then they get booked, and then they find a guy that was in the World Series the previous time that's booking a bar gig that's free. And I put all this money into bringing you, and then you go into a free show, whereas my show costs $15 or $20, and people that's coming out to comedy, they're just coming to comedy, but when you start building that following, they'll say, well, I know that when you come back in the area, you're gonna come for a free show. But there's a lot of folks that don't delineate. Not all stage time is smart stage time. And I think sometimes you have to delineate that because on this side of it, I've been a comic, I understand what you're saying. But on this side of it, liquor licenses, all the fees that we have to pay to try to build it up, and someone can go to someone who has a slow night and say, hey, I'm going to bar gig. Pardon the French, it screws us, and it screws the industry, in my opinion.
He was pointing at me as an example that wasn't me.
All right, Nikki?
Just a question back to tapes. You know, sometimes we go, we're at the club, we know we got like the pro tape, everything's hooked up, and then someone heckles us. And you gotta do a bit of crowd work to get out of it. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, now my tape's gone. Do you guys, if there is a bit of crowd work, if someone in the crowd comes after you, you deal with it, but you move on? Or are you guys like, no, crowd work, bye?
I prefer it's edited out. I'd rather just see joke, or material versus going into the crowd work. Now that's just for me. So I mean, I don't know what anybody else, what other bookers prefer. But I prefer. I don't want to see a bunch of crowd work or you talking to someone that I can't hear the other side of the conversation. So it's best just to clip that out.
So just
send your best one. Fade it out or just cut it. Just fade to the next one or cut it. It doesn't matter. I'm not looking for production quality. All I'm looking for is production quality is sound. Is it audible? And can I see you clearly? More audible than seeing clearly, because I can close my eyes and hear the laughter and I can hear the joke. But if it's a lot of crowd work or a lot of people talking and you hear the clinking of glasses and stuff, make sure that it's audible and clear. That's all.
Yeah, I'm with you to edit. Or tell the booker, this tape has a lot of crowd work in it. But most bookers want to see material, because we can't always do crowd work every night. Sometimes it doesn't work. So show the booker you have material to play it wherever you want to play, you know. So I would say edit it out. Show material first. And then if they want to say, then you want to send a second tape and go, here's a bunch of crowd work, they'll watch it, you know, but show the material first.
I'm chomping at the bit here to interrupt. You don't need a tape. I'll tell you right now, there's Instagram, you have Facebook, and you have YouTube. Like, send me 3 links to whichever clips you did. Shoot them on. I'm shooting live right now. Shoot something on your iPhone or it's okay. We in the room from professionals, we can tell right away if you're funny enough we're gonna book you. You're not gonna be headlining these clubs the first time in unless you're known pretty much for the most for the most point. So send them something that they can see a few different things on it. You don't have to have big production. Like, just get it out there and get it to them.
There's a lot of clubs who just completely dismiss anyone who has any crowd work whatsoever in their submission videos. It's, for someone who used to manage and book a club, it's just a can of worms you do not want opened Friday at a 10 o'clock show at all. Adam?
Are there any places that if you see somebody play, you won't book them because you're like, that place sucks, that guy's not good enough for my club?
I don't think we're going to call out any clubs on stage today.
I'm not asking.
Yeah, you're looking for a specific club that you work.
Can you go for my resume and tell me what I mean? No, what I mean is, is it like I'm not booking a guy because, and I don't mean like in a regional conflict like Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, do you ever see something and go, oh, this guy played that place, I'm not booking him?
If there's 4 or 5 in a row, maybe, but I can tell you it works the opposite way. If you have, 5 improvs on your list and you play in the Comedy Cellar, you play my club, whatever, like these guys' clubs, then it's going to work to your benefit for sure.
Yeah, if you're standing in front of a mirrored sign that says Jägermeister on it, it's pretty much going to be. I'm figuring that's an open mic. So from that place, I wouldn't. Yeah, don't send like an open mic or someplace with a really shitty looking background, or like I've gotten videos or I've looked at YouTube videos where they're standing there, the lighting's bad, there's people walking behind them in the street, you can see them because they're standing in the front of a storefront that probably doesn't even do comedy. It's just some shitty coffee house that decided to do comedy on a Thursday because they couldn't get anybody through the door to buy coffee after 6:30 at night. That's another thing that
I have another point to make. You asked about which clubs to play. So one of the best ways to get booked at my club is to come when I have some kind of showcase or open mic, and I don't do very many, or set up a little route where you're doing maybe 5 or 6 guest spots in a row. Just take a weekend. You're going to have to bite the bullet. They're not going to pay you. You're going to do 5-minute guest spots. Ask the club 100 times, hey, when can I come to a guest spot? I'll do it for free. I just had a girl this weekend crush it. And she sent me a text back, how'd you like the show? I said, my parents were in the audience. They were like, who's this lady? Book her. So, I'll bring her in. I said, next time you're in town or next time you want to work the club, I'll give you the whole weekend to feature. So.
Yeah, I think you could set up kind of like a hybrid tour. You could maybe try and find a few bar gigs, and on the way, what clubs can I stop in and say, hey, I'm going to be in the region, can I come and do a showcase? I think 9 out of 10 club owners, as long as you gave at least a couple weeks notice, would find some room on their showcase for you, especially if you're going out of the way to travel to showcase for them.
I hated doing that when I first started doing stand-up. I really hated going out and making those trips. But I found it necessary. If it's oftentimes that live audition was the thing that brought me into the club, and it also shows you have a drive and initiative to go out and do that.
Absolutely. And I also think...
and I think it's a lot easier now because there's a lot more places out there that are... I think we're in a pretty good comedy boom right now.
And I think getting directly back to your initial question, Adam, I think that Brian and David and Steve would probably agree that we understand that there's a progression for comedians, and you have to play the clubs that offer you the opportunity to play. And what we're looking for is the quality of performance and not necessarily the location of performance. But once you've achieved the opportunity to perform in some of the clubs that are considered higher caliber, then it will be much easier to leverage opportunities in other clubs. Let's go to David. Oh, okay, yeah. Ronaldo?
Whenever you guys are booking, do you book strictly features, or do you do MCs also, or do you leave the MC work for more local acts?
It's YouTube.
I find usually if I'm going to book an out-of-town MC, I will usually have the feature bring them. Sometimes budget doesn't allow for lodging for both, so they have to either double up in a room, or I will offer a stipend, a cash stipend to both, for their lodging. I'm not opposed. I bring out of town MCs in all the time, only because I like to see if they're a good MC, then I can say, oh, they're a good MC. Maybe I can move them up in a feature slot, in a year, or 6 months, or if they really crush it, then I can say, oh, okay, I'll just move them right up. But sometimes I'll have you will MC on one night and you'll feature on another. So, no, I'm not opposed to bringing out of town MCs. And if you have some family member in that area, in my area, that you can stay at their house, that makes it so much easier. I mean, you don't even have to be funny. No, joke. No, you have to be funny.
I just need a body, a hot body on stage. That's all I need.
Most of my shows are actually two-man shows, so it'll be a feature host position. That's probably more popular right now with national headliners. They're asking to have a two-man show. If they don't bring their own, which I feel like about 50% of them do, I usually will really need to make sure that the guy's funny. So I don't take a chance on hosts or features at all, unless I've seen them either perform or I've gotten a really good reference. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
The culture of comedy in Canada actually is that the MC is considered a higher position on the totem pole than the feature.
Been that way for a long time.
And so then often those are local headliners that we're just trying to find some extra work for them, or national touring headliners who will come and host one week and then headline the next. So it's a little bit of a different animal up north. So, but it would happen, but again, it would be based on references, your past history, who you might be performing with, that sort of thing.
And you get up there and you go, oh great, I got a gig in Canada. And then you get up there and you go, oh fuck, Norm Macdonald's MCing, shit, I'm gonna eat it. Canada's a great place to work. There's a lot of work and a lot of, you can do tour all the way across, and they're really helpful in setting you up.
The small little towns are very supportive as well.
Yeah,
there's a couple of national television shows where they just go from small town to small town and play like the community hall, and they sell out like 400 or 500 people.
Red Deer, I played there.
Yeah, it's the punchline's one of my favorite jokes. David.
Do you have any suggestions for those of us who only do clean comedy?
Me? Stick with it.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that. You open more doors when you do clean comedy. You can do corporate, you can do cruises, you can do clubs, if it's not, if you're not following somebody who's filthy. You got to book yourself correctly to succeed, But you should always write clean, because you can always dirty it up for a club if the club lets you, be a little more dirty. But then you've got that in your pocket. You've got 45 minutes of clean in your pocket, which translates to an hour dirty in a club.
Here's the thing with being clean as an opener. There's not a dirty headliner in the business who wants to have a dirty opener. Okay, so everybody asks for a clean opener. That's the best way to get booked, I'll tell you right now. Like, a dirty comic does not want a dirty comic in front of them. Okay, if they're headlining, they want all the juice of the shock. They want to be the dirtiest. They want to be, that's their gig. So they'll put right in the contract, clean opener. every time. So you're way more likely to get booked. As a feature or a host, you got to have clean material for sure.
Okay, we'll go Cameron and then Dale. So Cameron?
As far as like submitting your schedules, is it better to, so let's say you're in the range where like sometimes you feature, sometimes you headline, like you're in that gray area where it just depends. If you're going for like a headlining spot, is it better to just leave off your feature work, or is it better to have the whole thing just so you can kind of get a feel for every place they're working?
No, I think you should put them all. And I think you should try to tell the club, hey, look, it's my first time in. Maybe you can feature me for the weekend, but I'd love to headline on a Wednesday or a Sunday night if you have anything like that for the week. Because I don't pay travel or hotel for features or openers. So if you're going to headline like on Wednesday night, I'll bring you in on Tuesday so we can do radio on Wednesday and I'll pay for your hotel. But definitely talk to them about that and say, look, I do headline some rooms. Is there a weekend like that? Because I always look for those.
Also, if when you're submitting your availabilities, make sure that we know specific dates. If you're open, if you're booked on a Saturday night, but you want to try and fill other dates through that week, let us know all the dates that you're available. Sometimes I'll get emails that are really confusing as to whether they're open or whether they, what they are trying to tell me. So I would always suggest start with, for me, I would say start with Wednesdays and, start the week on a Wednesday and even say, availabilities the weeks of starting Wednesday and then just provide all those dates. I always like to see if you're working close by or if you're in like the neighboring state a week before or the week after, because then that way I'll say, oh, okay, well, that makes better routing for them. I want you to be able to route well through my area. I don't want you to come 1,000 miles for 2 nights and then, be sitting there. I had somebody fly in. I couldn't believe it. I booked them to feature a Friday and a Saturday night. They flew in from Washington State and then Ubered to the hotel. And I'm like, what? And then the following night, there was another one-nighter that was another 35 miles away. And I said to the headliner, I said, you know what? You got to give them a ride to the next gig because, they're already out. They were already losing money on the gig. So
I'll touch on that. I will say that 90% of the time, if I say, hey, I'm looking for a feature Thursday through Sunday, and they're like, yeah, I could do it, but I'm not available on Thursday, or I'm not available on Saturday, or I'm not, I literally just move on, because it's just too confusing. I have too many other things going on, and if they can't work the whole week, then I don't want them. I can have Tony fill in for my Saturday show, can I do it? 9 out of 10 times I'll say, I just say.
And I think that kind of goes back to the math we were talking about before. You have 1,070 emails of people looking for work. It's pretty easy to go on to the next one instead of having to do extra work to book your own club.
Yeah.
Dale?
2 quick ones. Can you tell us where each of you are located? And, okay, I'll ask the second one after that.
Naples, Florida, Off the Hook Comedy Club. OffTheHookComedy.com.
Pittsburgh, PA, and that's Slapsticks Comedy Club.
I'm in Los Angeles and Tucson.
Cool, thanks. And can you define clean?
I can.
I can define clean for you. Not dirty. Clean is if and this is what's crazy. In my contracts that I send out now, I actually have a list of words that I don't want you to say with the rating, because I've had so many comedians go up and use the language that I tell them not to use. And I'm not trying to censor you. All I'm doing is I'm trying to provide my customer and my client with what they have requested. when I say church clean, I mean, you know, you're not going to hear a dick joke in church. You know, I mean.
Yeah, you can be dirty without using curse words for sure. So, clean means that your comedy set is literally not offensive. Like, don't be offensive and say crude things. You don't have to say curses. That's part of it, but you don't have to say that to be dirty for sure.
Yeah, I get submissions and they and you guys think that it's clean, and you think it's clean because you don't say fuck, or but you're still talking about having sex, okay? So it's not clean. It's not clean like, okay, well, my wife and I are, we're in the bedroom and we're doing our thing. You're talking about having sex. So it's not clean. So if you were doing a corporate gig or a gig for me, and there's family members in it, you might see the parents cringe because you are talking about a subject, even though, yes, it's clean. You didn't swear, you didn't do anything. It's the subject matter. So, write accordingly for the gig, right?
So in your opinion, naughty is still not clean?
Well, there's so many different scenarios with it, and there's so many premises that you can do. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing innuendo, still you're talking about sex. If it's so.
It's not just sex too. I mean, you can be dirty with a lot of stuff.
Right, of course. I'm just using that.
No,
as
I'm
an
saying,
example.
I don't want these people to be confused. Comics, it's not sex that's only dirty. There's plenty of stuff that's really, things that are maybe not PC. Don't be so off-putting with your jokes. It could be really clean, but you're totally offending a whole group of people.
Right. So what about, maybe just as an analogy for the people here in the audience, maybe something like what you would see on The Tonight Show? That's kind of the goal that you're looking for,
Correct.
like a 5-minute stand-up spot.
Yeah.
Use that as a template of how far you can push the boundary.
And I'll tell you right now, nobody wants to have an opener go up there and talk about politics, because at least 50% of the room is going to be turned off right away. So don't be dirty, and I would tell you, don't be talking about your political views.
Yeah. So kind of like the first date.
Correct. Yeah.
And even religion, we touch on
True,
it,
exactly.
but somebody's gonna take it the wrong way. Our audiences today, they're completely different. They're fucking idiots. All right? They are. And you just go up there and go, well, that wasn't really that offensive. Somebody got offended, and we don't want you to be here anymore. What?
I've had some of the least offensive comedians that put on great shows and still have had 2 to 3 emails come back and say that people were offended or that was the worst they've ever seen. I can't believe he said that. And I'm thinking, there was 1,200 people here this weekend. You literally are complaining about that joke? Nobody else said anything, but somebody got offended.
Just a quick follow-up, maybe a more direct way to ask the question. If you're submitting a tape that's, say, 7 minutes long and it's clean material, but there's a fucking shit in there, do you...
Then it's not clean material for fucking shit.
No, I don't care at all. But if I have to tell you that, then I'll just tell you that. But I don't even... That to me, if the guy says he needs a clean opener, if you say shit or fuck, that's really, to me, not that dirty. But if you get up there and talking about, whatever you're spanking, whatever it is, that's dirty.
That's where I want
Yeah.
Well, you can drop it. I mean, if you hear it, if it's not part of the joke, and you can change it or you can drop it, I can understand that. But even when you're I would just if someone asked you to submit a clean video, I would just submit it without any language at all. Don't send it off, especially cruise ship. I worked cruise ships for a couple of years and worked with Dawn Casino, and yeah, I know. But
that's the reason why I created my.
Oh really?
agency.
Yeah, we can talk then.
Yeah, we can.
But I know one time I just used I used a stock line on a woman in the audience. It was a late show. It was an adult show, and she said she was complaining about something about drinking, and I said, "Well, where are you from?" And she said, "I'm from Arizona," and I said, "Well, I'll talk slower." And that was enough for her to go to the cruise director and say, he said all the people of Arizona are stupid. And I was like, no. I said, and thank God he was in the room, she was in the room, and thank God she was in the room, the cruise director, and I was surprised that they backed me.
Yeah, good.
And they said, no, sorry, you knew what you were getting into, and you shouldn't.
Yeah,
The first thing we said is don't heckle the comedians. So,
You know, when in doubt, take it out. Simple rule.
yeah, if you have to question it yourself, and you have to come up to me and say, hey, how's this joke? And I'm like, as soon as you say that, I'm going to say, nah, don't do it.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things that I appreciated as a booker, if we'd booked someone and it was the first time I'd seen them live, and they came up to me before their first show and said, and talked to me about some of the stuff that they knew might be skirting that line, and addressed it directly so that they could put corrective measures if it wasn't that type of joke for that marketplace. I thought that was good. And or if they would talk to the headliner and say,
That was exactly what I was going to say. This is after you do get booked. If you want to make sure you come back, you also might want to check in with the headliner, because you may not offend anybody in the club or the owner or the booker, but if the headliner's pissed, he could just tell the booker, hey, tomorrow Tony's not going to be on that show. Make sure that doesn't happen. That's it. And then the booker or the club owner's like, yes, Tony's not on the show. So you're completely screwed.
Yeah, and I like that too. I like, actually, once I've booked a comic, to go over his stuff. I want you to succeed. A lot of guys, a lot of agencies, some you've mentioned already today, just throw comics out there and don't work with them and don't care. They're throwing darts to make money. And I didn't want to do that. I want you guys to succeed. So I will sit down with you and go through your material and say, yes, no, late show only, yes, no, take that out. You know, just so you at least are walking in the door ready to succeed. And that's great with them too. If you're booked, if they're willing, you can ask them a couple questions. Can you think this is too much? No. They'll tell you, yes or no.
and
Simple.
also iron out regional references, that sort of thing too.
Yeah, a lot of times the comic will say, hey, what's the streetwear,
Right.
I can make a joke about, and then, they're opening up a little conversation with me. They might throw in, what about this joke? Is this okay to say?
Right.
And it's no problem.
Cool. Emmanuel?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new. You guys keep saying have references, that's what you've done. How do I get to that level of finding references and making those connections to better promote myself?
Every real comedy club, you play every open mic you can, as much as you possibly can. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's a volume game. It's the 10,000 hour theory.
And the key word there is real comedy club.
Correct.
Don't do the. You're not going anywhere doing the coffee shop open mic, because you're going to have to work harder and work dirty just to get a laugh of the 7 comics that are in the back of the room. Get into those real comedy clubs.
and with that, I would like to mention, don't write your material for the other comedians in the room. Write the material for the people who are going to pay to hear you laugh, or to laugh at what you're saying. The comedians, if you're doing, there's several open mics that I know of in Pittsburgh. There'll be 27, 30 open mic comics in there, and there's a bad habit to get into. Making references that are only the comedians are going to get isn't going to get the general public to laugh. I personally, for me, I feel that I'm not only just a stand-up comedian, I'm also an entertainer who is there to perform for the audience. I believe that we stand, as comedians, we stand apart from them in the fact that we have that ability to write material, we have the ability to use our wit, we have the use of our facial expressions and our bodies, that we can create this persona and fill the stage and make it our own space, make it in if you allow other comedians to influence what you're going to do up there, and go specifically to work with them, then you're really limiting yourself.
Yeah,
So
you're not finding your voice. You're finding their voice. You're playing to the back of the room. Don't play to the back of the room. Play to these people. They're the ones who came in to see it.
Johnny?
Yeah, I was curious, how do you guys usually tell from like a weekend if a feature is ready to be a headliner, or what would you guys say your time frame is on seeing that feature move up to a headliner spot, or does that more play into the following and stuff like that?
It's part of the audition process, I think. Part of the growth.
Absolutely. As a club owner or booker, I can't tell you how many emails I get at the end of the night, and we send out requests for them to write reviews. The customers really speak volumes for you. I mean, they'll step right up. I had a show with Pablo Francisco last weekend, and the opening act, Alex Yu, probably got 7 emails. People asking me, what's his name? I want to see that guy again. 3 or 4 text messages. He was so funny. The show was great, but the opener killed it. Like, I mean, those right there, I'll headline them on an off night next time again. So.
yeah, I use customer care cards, and I have the audience members rate all the acts on the show. So I do look at those to see to see how people did on the show. One of the things that I asked was,
I have something so funny. Go ahead, I'll tell you. Because the comic will tell you they killed every time.
Yeah.
The comic will tell you how funny they were, and I said, wait, I sat at the same show, there was like 4 people giggling. When you have a packed audience and the people laugh, it's roaring laughter. Like, you don't have to tell the booker or the club owner, I killed. Because if you did tell him that, you did not kill, I promise.
I asked that exact same question to a booker one time, as I was featured at his club for several years, and I said, "What is it that you need from me to get me to bump up from feature to headliner?" And he said, and this I thought it was pretty frank. He said, "I need a wow factor from you. I need the wow factor." And he said, "When I say that, I want the people that came to the club to walk out saying your name." And stick around. Don't just leave. Don't do your set and leave. I think one of the things that a lot of comics do is greet the people when they come out of the room. Always. I mean, I try to greet people when I'm headlining or emceeing or whatever I'm doing. I'll always greet the people after a show. And but he said, I want people to talk about you. I want them to talk about you Monday when they go to work and they're at the coffee machine, and saying, wow, the comedian who I saw over the weekend, or I want to see some feedback from all of the people that are at the show. And that's and the thing is, you're going to know too. You'll know when you're hitting that spot too. But bring that up. You got to bring that up one more notch. And that's usually what it is.
When you get the chance to open or feature or anything for a headliner, I'm telling you, your goal is to crush, like to make the headliner look like he was not the funniest guy in the room. I'm sorry, but that's how you do it. Like, if you want to get on the stage and you want to show everybody in the room how funny you are and get rebooked and tell the club owner and everybody else, I'm the funniest person, bring it. Like, bring your A game. When you get on stage, crush. And that's how it works, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was middling and just about to headline, my goal was to crush.
Absolutely.
So I want them talking about me after the show, not the headliner. And I want the headliner going, I don't want to fucking work with this guy anymore.
And they will.
Because
They
he's
will
too
say
strong.
that.
And they will say it.
They will say
That's
that.
how I got the headline, because the guys are going, nah, I don't.
That's exactly what they'll
He's
say.
got too much energy and he's too kidding, Can I have somebody else, please?
Yeah.
Little inside tip for you as well. If you are featuring at a club, one of the things I would suggest to do is do your best. If you're getting 25, let's say, do your best 25 on the first night. Then on subsequent nights, start with the same 5, end with the same 5, and mix in an extra 5, 10, 15 in the middle. Especially if you know that the club booker or owner is going to be there for all of the shows, or if the manager is the one who is booking the shows and also running the showroom. If you can prove to them that you do have 45 minutes, even if you don't get a 45-minute set to do it. If you can prove that you have material that's going to be as strong as what your 25 feature is over the course of 45 minutes or 60 minutes, then that's going to also strengthen your argument when you ask the question.
Yeah, and you might want to even just say to the booker, hey, I'm going to show you some new stuff tonight, just so you can see that I got a whole bunch of material. You know, instead of just doing it, and then he may be busy. He may be walking out. He may be serving food.
Also, sorry to interrupt, but also show the ability to handle a late night crowd. That's one of the huge keys for me when I was booking a club is, can this person handle the Friday late night crowd and handle the Saturday late night crowd? Because it's a different monster than the rest of the week.
On the other hand, don't go up there and try out new material because you're trying to work on some in bomb, because I guarantee, like, if an opener bombs, that's the last time that they come back.
Yeah, you get one shot.
Yeah, yeah. So use your like A material, and if you're gonna work in something, it better come back with like a crusher. Like your next joke better hit really hard if you tested out something that wasn't so hot.
Will?
Right?
I don't even know if it's right. Do you guys, as club owners and bookers, do you guys prefer actually talking with the comic or management and agents?
I really prefer talking to the comics. I like comics a lot.
I hate managers.
I prefer talking to the comics, especially when it's a when somebody has a pretend manager.
You mean the comic acts like themselves?
Yeah, they act like the manager, or they pretend they have a different name that they use for their manager, but it's the comic, or they have their their significant other calling in and saying, "I'm their agent." And of the agency that you've never heard of before. So
if you're looking for like cruise ship gigs or privates and corporates and stuff like that, these guys book a lot of that stuff. But when you're booking like club dates at like an A club or any of the clubs, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody wants to talk to a manager or an agent unless you're like a headline, like a big headliner.
Yeah, and a top manager.
Correct.
Okay, you'll know them.
Absolutely.
They know the good
Everyone.
managers and agents. Every one of them. So if you come in with your wife as your manager, it's not good.
And I want to say, we hate talking to managers and agents. I think I can speak for Ike and I, but we also look at honesty. I came over here to stand by Ike, and I know Dave really well, and Eric. The thing I want to say is, please, if you're going to use credits or try to use someone as a reference, don't lie. Ike and I, we talk to each other every day. And so...
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I talk to David. We talk quite a bit from time to time. And a lot of times we're trying to get bookings and all that. Even though I pick on Joe all the time, I come here specifically looking for folks, but I tell you, if you lie on your submission, I will never, ever book you again. But we're working clean because Ike and I happen to be the color of our skin. People assume that we're looking for urban. Sometimes in my club, I am the only black guy in a room for a month. So just go to just entertain us, like was mentioned earlier. Just entertain us, entertain our crowds, be entertaining, and ask what we want.
And getting back to the original question that Will had about management, the well-run clubs that are comic first, because they know if they're comic first, then there's going to be a good show, and then the audience is going to enjoy the show. So the clubs that run their clubs to provide a really great environment for comedians want to see the comedians get as much of the revenue as possible. So going through an agent or a manager means that part of that pie is being cut out for them. So I always used to prefer dealing directly with the comedians. You know what's what with them, what their real availabilities are, that sort of thing, and you're not getting some sort of BS from a third party.
And just to reiterate that point, you don't make enough to pay a manager right now.
Right.
You don't. Why do that? If this manager is in show business and really can propel your career to another level, whether it's TV, dry bar, whatever you want to do, Yes, maybe. But to deal with the clubs, no, you don't need it.
Pauly Shore texts me once a year, hey, I want this date, do you want to do it? I mean, not everybody needs a manager and agent. I mean, honestly, if you have a relationship, even if you do have a manager and agent, you have a relationship with the booker, then I would suggest you use that first.
Paul.
Yeah, just going back to the initial reach out, whether it's email or text. I've heard from a lot of bookers that they treat those things like they treat clips. If it's, you got about 5 seconds, and if it's really bad, they're gonna move on, and you get so many of them. Can you just, is there a really concise and effective way to effectively communicate things quickly, like credits, clubs that you've worked, references? I mean, do you have any suggestions for like a structure that works really well to get your attention when you actually do read the email?
Yeah, I like to see the club, where you played, the last 10 dates, the next 10 dates. And then, hey, here's a clip. That's fine. I'll look at it, but I'm clearly going to look at the clubs you're playing and who's suggesting that you should contact me, how you got my information. And then I'll look at the clip.
Okay. Clubs, references, then clip, and ideally a personal showcase.
Yeah, the showcase, that's if you're just literally walking in because I don't know who you are. So tomorrow you come to my club and you did 5 minutes and you crushed, that would be a bit of an eye-opener. If you send me an email and it's just, hey, I'm a comic, I'm loving to come to your club and work, can you give me some feature work? That's nothing unless you have the clubs that you have played, the clubs that you are playing, and this guy said that your club's awesome, come check it, that I should come check you out.
And the structure that Brian's talking about also is presents itself a little bit more professionally. Like, this person is clearly working full-time to get full-time work while touring, and they're putting the effort in, and they know what. So that's probably kind of what your question
is. And if you
is.
have nothing on there that's impressive, you have to go to the club. You have to go to the club.
Okay, just one follow-up then. Like, is it ever off-putting for, say, like if someone that you've never heard of that does have their club list and stuff like that, and is like, hey, I'd love to feature for a weekend. Is that off-putting if you've never heard of them, or would you say like, okay, well maybe not feature, but you can host or come do a guest spot or something like that?
Absolutely, it's not off-putting at all because I don't know everybody, and these guys don't know everybody. And then with things changing so quick, I mean, I headlined Anthony Rodea the other day. Literally, he told me, dude, I'm going to sell out the club. And I was like, yeah, okay. Huh? He sold out the club. He sold like 200 tickets on a Wednesday night. And it was 2 days after the hurricane.
Wow.
I didn't know who he was, but I do now. I follow him on Instagram. I love him.
Yeah, keep it concise. That's what I would suggest. Don't try to get too personal or chummy, because it's business. It's the business end of the show. So,
It's so funny. I was just thinking.
Just say who your reference was, or like he said, if you have club dates coming up, boom, boom, boom. These are my available dates, bam, and then have the clip. And you make sure it's a good clip. Also, make sure I don't have to go looking around everywhere on the internet to find something.
Yeah, don't send this to your website. Send the clip.
Right.
For me, anyway. Send the right to the clip.
And
Yeah.
also
Good point.
be aware with
Great
that.
point. Good call.
Be aware with when you're putting a hyperlink for your clip that you haven't accidentally time coded it, so it launches at 6 minutes and 12 seconds into your set. It's like, just make sure that you're sending the right information using the right clip.
I think another good thing is if you have the EPK,
Electronic, press kit.
If you have that has your headshot, your bio, and information, all your contact information in it, that makes it so much easier because I can just take that and I can put it in your file. If sometimes I'll say, I need your headshot, and the comedians say, well, you can pull that down off my Facebook page. Now, you know what? No, I can't pull it down off your Facebook page. I asked you specifically to send your headshot. Don't tell me to go somewhere else to get it. Just attach it to the damn email.
Yeah, don't be late.
Oh, the other thing is that's really frustrating is when you ask for a headshot and bio, if they send you somewhere to get the bio, or they say, I don't really have one. Then you're like, oh, I don't really have a spot for you either. Like, that's kind of my next comeback.
Next
How do you
month.
not have a bio? Like, hey, my name is, I've done this, this, and this, and you should come see me. Or, you know, and then the other thing is have your bio be something that you'd want to read for a customer to buy a ticket. Like, it needs to be something that's informative and actually energetic, or, you know, whatever it is. It's not, it needs to be something that the club wants to put on the ticket that makes people know what you're talking about or come see you. That's what they need.
The bookers also don't ever work for you. So don't give them any work whatsoever to help you get paid work.
I want to say something. Yeah. About all this, when I started on the road, this was way back when they used to send shit out, bios and stuff like that. I showed up at a club, and my bio and my resume and stuff was on the wall with my photo, and I had already had and I have a degree in advertising, so I was over the top with promo and stuff. But the booker had taken their stickers and stuck over my name. And I was like, why did they do that? And then I realized they didn't want the club who they'd sent the promo to hire, just call me and hire me. They wanted their information on there. I instantly went home and reprinted all my promo with their information on it. Because in my head, I went, that guy had to take time and put a sticker on my stuff. He has to do that for every comedian. If I could take that work away, I just put myself above another comic. I was in another booker's office one time. He turned around to his filing cabinet to reach for headshots, and there was a whole bunch of headshots in the filing cabinet, all in manila folders. I went home and bought red plastic folders, printed my name in a bright color, and would send out my headshots in a folder with my name on it, so that booker didn't have to print it out. He just turned around, stuck it in the folder, and guess what he saw every time he pulled that drawer out? My shit.
Can I interrupt? In this day and age, when
none of that's relevant.
I'm never gonna look at that.
Correct.
I promise.
100%. What I'm getting at, none of that's relevant then. Yeah. But I'm talking.
You're
There's
right.
still a lot of things when they tell you to do stuff. Just look at what you can do and do the work for you guys. That's what I mean. Don't ask them if you can look at a club and go and just think if I can do this for them, I'm gonna go above. Like making you look for something. Don't make you look for it. That's what I was getting at. I know my shit's archaic.
No. I don't want these guys to all think they need to be doing
No. I know where I'm at.
But I you know what? I had something.
For one
Go
second,
ahead.
please, Brian. He just used the word archaic in the right context. That's pretty impressive. Good job.
Somehow I brought this shit together.
And make sure that your headshots are clear, and you can get free headshots here. They're going to do a great job for you. I mean, those are good headshots along the wall. I hate when a comic sends me a picture and it's obviously something that they took with their phone at their sister-in-law's baby shower as they were standing outside carrying shit out for them, you know? I mean, it's just a terrible picture. Get a clear picture that's you. I don't want a shadowy picture of you. I don't want half of you covered up. I don't want you looking down or look in the fucking camera. That's all you got to do.
Well, let me ask you guys a question on regards to that. First of all, and don't put comedian on the fucking headshot. Don't say Bob Johnson comedian. That's ridiculous.
Don't even put your name on it.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Do you want
send a
the name?
picture in landscape and send one in portrait, because
go.
right now majority of the ticketing sites all are in landscape. So they're gonna have to create your bio and your picture, your headshot in landscape. Like Eventbrite or any of the ticketing systems, they all need a landscape picture. So make sure you keep that in mind as well.
That's smart.
All right. Cameron, did you have a follow-up, or did you just want to mention about doing the headshots this week?
No. But yeah, I also have headshots. But no, I was going to ask, is there a preference that you have on the subject of the email? Like, I've seen people that they send things in, and it's trying to trick people into opening it and things like that. You have like a preference of like, Your name, new submission, referral name, or anything like that?
Comedy Club avails, I love. I do hate when they say, hey, I tried to call you. Or, and it says something like that, like it's clickbait. I kind of get annoyed, to be honest, honestly. But I still sometimes open them. I prefer it to say avails. You know why I say Comedy Club avails? Because when I go in my email box, and if I ever, God forbid, need to look for something like that and find out who's available, I'm going to search avails in my email right away, and there'll be a million emails that pop up. But if you put some kind of crazy clickbait email in there, you're not going to show up on that list.
Yeah, your name and Comedy Avails, because if I'm looking for your name and I just go into my search on my email, your name comes up. So put that in the subject matter.
Paul, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask about headshots, because headshots can mean a lot of different things. There's like acting headshots, there's like a nice smile, or there's like comedy headshots. Any preference, thoughts on that?
You see stuff like that on those posters right there? Those are all great. But what is going to tell a potential ticket buyer that you're funny? I don't care what it is. That's what needs to be on there. There's nothing, I guess there's probably, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong unless it's something that does not portray anything about you or your comedy. Then that's wrong.
Amanda?
Do you ever scout at open mics before people can get onto showcases? They're doing open mics. Do you ever start at that level?
I once saw 92 people performing one day, and that sucked. So the 92nd person probably didn't get the same attention that the first person did. Most bookers, comedy club managers, owners are probably so busy with the functionality of their own club that they don't have the time to spend their extracurricular time doing homework. As an example, when I ran the club, I was the showroom manager, probably on the showroom floor for 23.5 to 27 hours a week out of my 40-hour work week. I also had to schedule all the staff, hire, train, do the cash outs, do the cash counts, liquor inventory,
You're hired.
order. Yeah. So I probably, honestly, had 3 to 4 hours a week to deal with booking. So 90% of my job was spent elsewhere. And I had very little motivation once I was finished my work shift to go to a 10 o'clock open mic somewhere. Anyone who was in Little Rock with us last year can attest to that. I got tricked into an open mic last year, and I just spent the whole time outside sulking and swearing.
After the show, we
Which
were
one was
going
it?
out to eat, but we
The Dwayne or Hibernia?
I don't know. It was Diesel Funny did it, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll tell you that if you're funny, the staff watches more comedy than me live because they're there 24 hours a day serving the customers and watching at the show. Somebody's going to tell me right away. Like every club has those couple staff members that are going to say, you got to book this guy, a girl, she killed it tonight. And I will even text somebody in my staff and say, hey, if someone's funny, let me know.
Right.
But I'm not going to be there. I mean,
do you ever get a chance to go to open mics and watch stuff?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very rare that someone who works in comedy will also go to a mic.
Yeah, they don't need to go to an open mic. They got them, like you heard them. I got 1,000 submissions in my email. They don't need to go. That's for you guys to go work on your act and your craft. That's what's there. So find good ones, like you were saying, where you actually have a few real audience members and not comics in the back of the room, or you're never going to progress. You'll never get better. I promise.
I would say most agencies and comedy club owners are not going to go out to an open mic. I'm also a performer, so last Wednesday the Pittsburgh Improv was running their fall contest, and I went in to close the show while they tallied votes, just like last night.
Oh God!
Which is, it's the really tough position, but I wanted to work out some material, so I did sit and watch all the performers on the show. I not this particular show, but I've been to open mics where I've gone ahead performed at an open mic, and I've had a couple of performers catch my eye, and hopefully I can help them along the way to develop them into a local MC for me. Now, I don't know what goes on in your city where you live, but if indeed you're trying to impress a club owner or a booker, then I would say and you're at an open mic and you see them, there's no reason why you can't introduce yourself and ask some questions to them directly, because once they know who you are, then they'll say, okay, I'll give them a shot. I mean, unless you're really nuts, and stalking them, but
I think one of the things too that an open mic can provide for someone, especially if you're touring, you're going to an open mic in a city where you don't live, is it's an amazing peer-to-peer networking opportunity, and then leverage those relationships that you make to a potential introduction to someone at the club level. And this festival is amazing for that too, because there's people from representing 26 states here. That should be a lot of people that you're going to be talking to this week to try and get an opportunity to maybe showcase at their home club, or at least come out and do a mic in their area that could leverage that opportunity in the future. Jeff?
Outside of like your credits, what are you looking for in a bio? Do you like it when people try to be funny in a bio? Do you want to hear what their material is like or what they talk about on stage?
For me, when I submit whenever I do my fundraisers or whenever I do my clubs, I always submit a paper bio with all of the with the promotional materials, or with the contract materials. So just one line doesn't really help me. I need a little bit of just a little bit of background. When you got started. What you've done and people you've worked with in clubs.
Do you like maybe a stylistic definition, like similar to or this type of comedy?
No, not particularly. I mean, just a little bio about yourself. What got you started, or some comedians they'll have a few words from whatever their name is, and then they just kind of tell their little story.
What about reviews? Like Andrew, I know you went to Edmonton and Edinburgh this year, so you might be able to have like a review from a festival.
Absolutely. If you have like a little quote from a from a club or a event you were at or a festival, best of the fest. He or she really rocked it. I mean, they have the person's name. Yeah, that's always a little bit extra. It helps. Because I can put that on your promo, I can, when I'm putting it up on the website, I can say, as seen on blah, blah, blah.
Correct, yeah. The reason why we want the bio is to entice somebody to see the show. So whatever we can, take off of that or use as a credit or whatever, that's only going to help you, and the club is going to be more interested.
Yeah, if somebody says he was or he or she they were raised Mormon, and and there's people out there that are like, oh wow, I didn't know that there was a Mormon comedian, or oh wow, I was raised Mormon. I mean, I think anything like that that's going to set you apart with that little bit in your bio, well, that's a plus.
Yeah, even though it's a biography for you, it's a marketing tool for the club or the venue.
And don't make it 2 pages long. Yeah. Cut to the chase.
Correct.
Get the information in there. Get your credits in there, or clubs or whatever you worked. And if you have testimonials, like he worked a corporate gig, we loved him. Can't wait to have him back next year. Are tired.
2 to 4 sentences is too short. Anything more than 20 is too long.
Drew?
With the submission video, how important is the audience reaction, the laughter of an audience? Is it better to send like an easy crowd that was a sellout 250-seater, or maybe a better set that was better written, but maybe 50 to 100 people not laughing as loud?
Why are you so happy when you ask that question?
I'm always happy.
If I can hear individual laughter, then it's probably not a good tape.
Correct.
Yeah, and if I can hear no laughter, it just looks weird. It looks like you're talking to nobody. So you want of course you want the audience raucous. I would want to submit my tape showing me killing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There was a comedian from Pittsburgh who famously sent out a video of him with literally a sheet behind him in his living room, and it had Comedy Club painted on it, and his dad was sitting. And his dad, he was doing the material in front of his dad, and his father was sitting there going, ha 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 ha, every joke.
Was it funny?
No, it was so awesome though. It was so great.
It sounds great.
It is like one of the classics. If you know, my buddy Ed Driscoll. I don't know if you know Ed Driscoll. He wrote for Dennis Miller for years. He has an original copy of it, and I'm really jealous of having that.
Phil?
Yeah, I'm from Montana. There's no clubs within 500 miles of where I live in any direction. And if I tell you the last place I played was Saturday at the warehouse in Worland, Wyoming, I'm not sure that's going to impress you a whole lot. What can I do to help myself in that respect?
That's a good question. I touched on it before. You need to get in the car and you need to drive and play like 4 or 5 clubs on a weekend. Make a vacation out of it, but you're gonna have to pay for it yourself and see what you can get out of it. But funny is funny, dude. If you are at one of those places and you have a clip and it shows that you're crushing and somebody watches it like myself and I think it's funny, I might still book you. If you're funny.
Do you want to live in Montana or do you want to be a comedian? because you can't do both.
Yeah, those are mutually exclusive things.
Yeah. If you want to be a comedian, go be a comedian. If you're stuck and you have a job and a day job and you're just doing open mics, then and you're happy with that, then you're a hobby. And, you know, you want to work a club once a year and get out of town. They don't want you. They don't. They want guys who really love what they do and want to do it full time. You know, it's a harsh reality, but it's true.
Jan?
I think you answered part of my question. I was going to ask you about bio. But when I submit information to places, I list comedy festivals that I've been in. Is that important to you? And I also list who I open for kind of as a host versus who I open for as a feature. Different comics that are well known.
I think it's great. That's exactly what I would look for. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, if you were the winner of a festival, absolutely have it on there. Because if there's nothing else on your bio that I can put in a 3-word blurb under your picture, I can put winner of the whatever the crappy festival was, World Series of Comedy or whatever.
Oh God, who would go there? Who would go there?
I do put World Series of Comedy finalists or winners. I put that right there because
of course, that's
I mean, even just the fact that it says World Series of Comedy, people are like, oh, well, they were in the World Series of Comedy. Well, shit, they got to be funny. So, I mean, that alone is going to help.
And I always thought it sounded better on my bio, even though I was opening or hosting, mostly opening when I started doing bios. I would put worked with. I worked with Dennis Miller. I worked with Robin Williams. You know, they know I opened for them. You know, but it just sounds better. You know, because otherwise you're opening. You know what I mean? You're pigeonholing yourself. Opening. I worked with.
That's a good point. I see where you're going with that. Honestly, now that
used to
you say it
fool
like
the
that,
club owners
you're
all
right.
the fucking time.
You're right. That's a really good point.
You know, and it just
I like
looks
that
better
too.
in print too when the audience is coming to see the show. You know.
And also, if you're ever finding yourself in a position where you're going to submit yourself to open up, let's say a casino is hosting a comedy night, and they're bringing in a national headliner, but you don't know who the opener is, and you want to submit to it. I would say submit yourself as the support act, because that is what, in the industry terms, the person who is opening for that headliner, they are the support act. They're not the opener, they're not the feature, they're the support. So That's what those the people in charge of the money, the people that are booking those comedians in those different positions. That's what you're known as, is the support.
Yeah, every contract will say, X amount of money for support, and that's 100% in almost every contract.
Yeah, that's true.
Mike?
Yeah, I had a question about sending out emails. Is there like a guideline to time and day that because it's a numbers game, is a better chance that you're gonna see it pop through? Like Monday at noon is not comedy.
If you have the answer to that, please let me know, because I send 100,000 emails out a week. Literally, I send 100,000 emails out, and I timestamp every one. Like, okay, this week was Cheryl Underwood at 10:35 a.m. on Monday, and I watched and look to see what it looks like and how many people open it, and I look at all the stats for it. So now I don't have an answer for that, but if you find one, please tell me.
I have sort of a short form, generic answer for that from someone who would have to work the club and also do all the administrative work. Take a look at what their schedule is. If they're a 5-day-a-week club and they're dark on Sunday and Monday, that Tuesday is probably going to be kind of busy for that manager or booker. So maybe mid-afternoon Wednesday might be something that's more likely to be seen. Definitely don't send anything during show times. That's just like auto-delete.
That's a good point, but I have something, and my ADD kicked in, so that's why I had to interrupt. I apologize.
No, go.
So I book, and these guys book comedy 24 hours a day. I can tell you right now that 30% of the comics that I book, I DM right now on Instagram and Facebook. How do I get a hold of guys that are, I don't know, some of the club history of panelists, and they're amazing clubs, but I booked Steve O, the first comedy show he ever did live. I literally booked him on a DM through Facebook. And that's how I booked his first show ever. He never did comedy. And that weekend, he booked $3 million worth of shows because all the agents saw Steve O book at my club. And so I still, to this day, reach out to comics nonstop because there's so many guys that are blowing up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, and they don't have agents. They're literally just selling their own shows out, and there's plenty of fans out there for them. I'm reaching out to guys nonstop on DM. So don't just look at emails, I promise. And I don't do Twitter. And I don't know many people that do right now. Some markets still do Twitter, but it's all done on Instagram and Facebook if you're looking for something like, talk to
One of the things that I would suggest, following up to Brian's point, is that, and I know Joe would probably want to point this out, is answer your fucking phone. If someone is replying to your email or your text or your DM, answer them. You're spending so much time trying to get in contact with someone, and then no one replies. No one replies.
Jason, also, you can get a second phone number with Google Voice and just have it be like a specific phone number you give out for business. So even if it's on the same phone, you can see that someone's calling you for a business thing. And that way, even if you're like, I'm running from predators or whatever, you can answer the important call.
If I have a show on Wednesday night and I'm at radio on Wednesday morning and the headliner says, hey man, who's opening today? I'll go, I don't know yet. I actually have to look at my calendar. I may not literally have zero. And Dougie knows, he's gotten how many calls from me, right, Doug? And I'll send out a text. I might text 10 people at one time. One text after another, just cut and copy. Hey, you open this week? You open tonight? I need someone. You open. Brrr, send them all out. Yeah. The first guy that comes back, I usually
we hate bookers like that. Comedians.
That's how it works, though. That's how it works.
For last minute cancellations, I used to do that. I would send
last
a bulk
minute,
text,
last
and I'd be
minute,
like,
understand. But
first one to get back to me gets this gig.
This is the support. Openers, features.
Headliners
never.
But week in, week out, clubs that do that make it very, very difficult for comedians who are, are trying to. There was a club that I used to work. You could go in there on a Wednesday at 7:55 to just see the show, and they're like, "Hey, man, are you open? You want to see the show?" Well, yeah, okay. Well, what are you doing the rest of the week? I'm like, what?
It does happen, honestly.
I know, but it shouldn't.
We should also sell out every single show that we have.
And Brian, the other thing I want to say is with that whole answer the phone thing, comics, if you're in this business, pay your primary phone bill, because if I call you and it's directed to someone else, don't be sleeping with all the staff that you feel like you gotta change your number. If we can't find you, we're going to someone else. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
Yeah. Update numbers. Yeah, keep the phone numbers updated, and if we call, answer the phone. Don't let it go to your voicemail. If you know our phone number and you have our name on it, and you see it after we've texted back and forth for the last 15 minutes, and I call you and you don't answer it, I'm like, come on, really?
Take the time to enter a booker's information into your phone with their actual name. Everyone who's registered for the World Series of Comedy this year is in my phone under their name. So if I get a call or a text, I know exactly who's touching base with me. If you're trying to reach out to get paid work, you should have all the tools available to yourself to be able to answer that call knowing who it's coming from.
Yeah, and we want to get the work done. I mean, all of us we've got this funneling into us. All these comedians funneling into us. So just one out to you. Answer it. Get back to us quickly. We want to move on to the next thing. We want to book you, but we want an answer. You know, I will email my comics. I don't get an answer right away. I will text them, and then I call them, text them, in personal message on Facebook or Instagram right away, because we just want to get it done. Glad you're working for us. Moving on. You know, we got a lot of work to do. So.
Also, make sure your email is easy to find.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many guys that have this stupid fucking email.
Yeah.
I'm trying to type it in and I can't find it to send you an email or something like that. I'm moving on.
And also in your bios on Instagram and Facebook, guys, put your contact information in there. If you have somebody booking, if you have somebody who's, that's a very good point. And on your email, make sure you have your signature that has a phone number and your email after you send them an email in the email, because that's important as well. But I would say in everybody's bios, on your Instagram and Facebook, make sure there's a way to contact you on there right away, because that's really important.
Well, how are we doing on time? Okay, so we probably have about another 10 or 15 minutes to go. Mark?
Yeah. What kind of value do you guys see in running shows in your local area, essentially being an amateur version of what you guys do, and getting booked in the future, getting on the road?
You mean like you're going to host a show?
Yeah, like a bar show, like the free show that somebody would...
To me, I still think it's competition, but I'm just like that.
Also, I think it's more,
and I hate competition.
It's more towards, that's building your 10,000 hours to be a stronger comic, to get booked. But I don't think that you can use the analogy of I run a show, so I understand how comedy would work, and I'm performing well at my show, so I'll probably perform well at your club. I think it's still all going to be mostly merit-based, following the criteria we've talked about, references, where you've worked, that sort of thing. I don't think a one-off show is going to be a strong reference that you've created. So, like, if you've created a one-off show, I don't think that'll end up being a strong reference.
Yeah, if you're doing that on a regular basis in your hometown, don't devalue yourself. Don't do a free show on a Friday and Saturday night. You need to have some type of admission for people to pay to get in to see you, because you're devaluing yourself and the other comedians and the other performers. If you're going up and doing it for free, that's an open mic. That's all that is, and it's just lowering the bar.
The only time that's going to work.
Pardon?
If the comedians are being paid, but the tickets are free because the bar has an entertainment budget, is that the same?
Still just a bar show.
It's just a bar show.
The only time that works is if you do like if you're Jay Davis at the Laugh Factory and you're booking Dane Cook on Wednesday night, he literally just comes in and does a guest set. That's your show, right? Then you get the credit because that, like, you put the show together all the time and you're like doing it at the club. But to go to a bar and do it, I think a real, like a booker or a club owner or something like that doesn't really see it as value at all.
I see it as a producer. I see you as a show producer, but I wouldn't see it as I wouldn't say, wow, that's a great comedy credit.
Randy?
Oh, I want to revisit the clean and dirty thing. Let's say someone does a bit on colonoscopies.
Sounds dirty.
I'll just stop you right there. It's been done a fucking million times. Move on. Let's move on.
That's a good answer.
Sean?
Just
We can hear you.
as far as the meet and greet goes, like that's Thursday. How do we stand out to you there? Do we dance? Yeah.
You should have a really big beard.
On it.
And light it on fire. New closer.
Colin?
So, question: when you guys are getting emails with avails in, how much does it affect your opinion of the comic if you see a lot of open dates? Like, let's say 2 months out, they've got 3 weeks in a row off. How much is that going to affect? Should they just send you maybe only 1 or 2 weeks so they look better?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yes.
50% of the national headliners don't have more than 2 or 3 dates booked a month. Probably more. So you have nothing to worry about. I guarantee. I can pick up the phone and book a $25,000 act to be here tomorrow. And I'm paying him $25,000, and he's open, and he's still a superstar, like a huge star. So don't feel like that's a problem, because it is not. It is not a problem.
One of the tricks that I used to do was if somebody called me for a booking and I was looking at an open schedule, I would just say, oh, hold on just a moment, let me check my book and see where I'm at. Kind of just hem and haw a little bit.
That's okay.
And then go, you know what? I think I can move a few things around.
I'll have to cancel something.
I gotta cancel something for you, but I think I can rebook it. So you know what?
Wait, there is honestly, when I hear someone say they're going to cancel something for me, to me, I'm like, don't do it. Don't worry about it.
Well, you're right. You're right. Don't cancel.
Then there's a
something,
small percentage of the fact that you might not be there.
Yeah, something
So
might happen.
I will tell you the truth. But
I would
do
say
that.
I can make it. I can make that work. Or you know what? I'm booked before. That just so happens I'm open that weekend. This is awesome. This is great. But you don't have to. Don't have to go. Woo! Yeah, baby! I finally got a fucking date. You don't want them to hear that. You just want them to. Just be real calm about it. Say absolutely. I think I can get in there. That's no problem. So
Okay, Joe, I just want to clarify something on the schedule of events. In the program book, we have Jerry's thing tomorrow at 10. Is it at noon? Out front it says at noon. We accidentally have it as 10.
That's cool. Sorry. So much for fucking proofreading.
And then there's a 3 o'clock podcast seminar with Joel Byers. The meet and greet is on Thursday at noon. My set construction seminar that focuses on showcase sets is going to be at 3. Friday, that is at 10 a.m., correct, Joe?
He's got all kinds
with Neil Berliner. And poker has been replaced with bowling. There is a sign-up sheet in the area where Bobby checked in. If you guys want to come out and do a fun bowling networking event, check in with her. And then there's a comedy seminar on Saturday at 3 as well, just outside the showroom door. Aurora.
Quick question. When you guys are getting emails, how do you feel and how would you want it presented, I guess? If there's comedians that can travel together and save you money on lodging or have a car
Like
buddy.
you and Drew?
Yeah, it's just like we're getting married, but we both do comedy and we have very flexible schedules, so we don't mind. Well, we would love to travel around.
Wait, you're both comedians and you've decided to marry each other?
Yes.
Yeah, well. God bless the two.
Yeah, we're gonna pray for you.
But like
oh my God.
host like do like a host feature situation. And
No,
so
you
that
really need
don't
to
know
wait
who
to
you
get
are.
married until want to use a headliner, and then move along. That's what you gotta.
Package deal.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have somebody that you can travel with, I am all for bringing another comedian with you that you travel with. And I'm talking to everybody. You don't have to be in a relationship with that person. So, I mean, if you can, yeah, if you can offer. If you're coming in as a feature and you say, hey, look, I've got a great MC who I work with all the time. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to take it. I'm willing to take it on as your reference. But if they come in and they suck, then I probably won't book you again. So
like in the email, how like just like in maybe in the beginning of it, if you're like, hey, I'm this person, and you saw me here. I can travel with this person.
Yeah. Just let me
my
know who they
fiancé.
are. Get me their contact information, and have that. And send here's all their info too.
Okay,
So then that way I know.
With links to video.
I just wanted to give a little aside to what he said earlier about when somebody calls you for a booking. One of the things that I have done in the past is when somebody would call me, I wouldn't say that I had another date booked just to make it, to make them kind of fight for it. I would tell them, hey, look, I know there's a fallout. I have another thing that's penciled in my schedule right here. Let me call them. Give me an hour to get back to you. Let me call them real quick, even if it's not scheduled, because sometimes you fluster and you'll take whatever money's there.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you don't have that penciled in, that's bullshit. Just take the fucking gig. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I do that because sometimes I'll have a club call me out of whatever, and they'll offer me a certain amount of money. So I need, 2,000's not enough. Let's try to do it for this. He wants to do it for this, but I tell him, hey, can I get a little travel?
I'm moving on.
Can I get whatever? No,
Mark, we're talking about these kids. They're gonna take
I'm still moving on.
Hey,
I'm not gonna wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking. I will definitely keep looking.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you just gave him an hour to think of somebody else. So you're going to call him back and he's going to go, sorry, I booked
Yeah,
it.
I'd finish the.
Cut to the chase.
That's just me. I try to finish it up right there. I want to be quick and clean with it. The quicker I can get it done, the quicker I can move on to something else. So, yeah.
But I was talking. He's right. I was talking headliner as opposed to feature. I keep forgetting that. I'm so sorry, guys.
All right, so a couple questions, and we're going to wrap it up. Jamie Ward from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this. This has been fantastic. I was working outside, missed part of the beginning of this, so this is already actually shut me up. If we don't have like TV credits specifically, what is the best way or best like next thing to try to get into a club or market that we have not been in?
Have you won the World Series of Comedy?
I lost it so bad they made me host.
Okay. Well, even host of the World Series of Comedy would be a acceptable credit for the crappy gigs I have.
That's good. Just driving by the World Series of Comedy can get you booked.
That's so funny. No, okay, so I'm gonna plug my own podcast. I'm gonna be podcasting all week, and any of these questions that you guys want to ask, I'm gonna set up a table. I'll be live. My podcast has had the biggest comedians in the world. I'm talking Kevin Hart, Jim Jeffries. I mean, you name it. Ralphie May 4 times. Anybody that wants to be on the podcast, I'm gonna be set up probably out here in the lobby. I think, right?
Yeah, we're gonna look after wherever you feel like. But I think if you want to do both five, we can do it right by.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can ask me these questions one-on-one, and I'll give you as much information as I have about it, so you guys can all be part of the show. And I'm gonna be here till Thursday, so I hope you do be part of it. But going back to what you said, if you have nothing, you better just get out to the club and do 5 minutes at a club, and try to bring your A game and have people. The buzz will start. The club itself will have little trolls in the club that's watching. Believe me, at least I do.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for us. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you to Brian and David and Steve. If you guys can gather up the program books that are on the table and pass them backwards, Ira and Mike, grab them for you guys.
take them with you. Also, straighten your chairs up.
You've always been in LA.
Okay. Nice where that you have.
Thanks, guys.
That was fun.
Water or anything you want to stable.
Yeah.
I'm around till Friday.
I'm around. I'm around.
If you're not doing anything tonight, come back and watch.
Absolutely.
Support the comics. Come back and watch.
All right.
Wander by. I got nothing to do. Sit here and judge the comedians.
What time are you going to get started?
Probably, I mean, what time is the first event tomorrow?
We have a noon seminar.
So probably 11. All right. I'll probably set up at 11. Whenever I'm at the table, I'll be live and recording.
Hey, just want us to wander by?
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Very funny stuff.
Oh, thank you very much.
That was fun.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. You moved on. You moved on. You moved on.